Shalom, shalom, Akiyam. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. I would also like to give a double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, where I learnt this 144% truth. I would also like to say peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, starting with the 144,000 men of Israel, which consists of the servants, the prophets, whom have been ordained since the foundations of this earth to sing this new song, which comes in the form of this gospel, which would be preached throughout all four corners of this earth and rest upon the ears of the innumerable multitude, men, women, and children of Israel, who may be scattered throughout all four corners of this earth. It's just Bayan back again through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And I just wanted to get into a brief lesson, pretty much tapping into, news and prophecy for you Akyam and Akwat that may not be aware, which you should be by now. Israel attacked Iran yesterday, and Iran is in the process of attacking them as I speak. All right, which is pretty much guaranteeing imminent World War III. And we understand, we're full aware of the idea, of the reality of the third woe, as it tells us. And we can start here in Revelations. Revelations chapter 11 and verse 14, and it reads, the second woe is past, and this woe is talking to the Second World War. Okay? And behold, which means look, right? Behold means look, right? The third woe, the third world's war cometh quickly, and it's right around the corner. All right, but we understand via the chronological order of prophecy, that Jacob's trouble and the MOTB, the mark of the beast, must come first before the other end of Esau's Eon, which is going to come in the form of the third world's woe. When Gog Magog, which is Russia, clashes with the daughter of Babylon, which is going to be the war that's going to end all wars. And this is the reality, man. All right, this is the time we're living in. Matter of fact, let me get one more. This is the time we're living in, man. For those of you out there thinking that we're living in a time of peace. All right, that's the furthest thing from the truth. Let's go ahead. This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3 and verse 1, and it reads, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the sun. Under the heaven, excuse me. And what's under the heaven? The earth. Look, jumping down to verse 8, a time to love and a time to hate. All right, and that's the time we're in the time of hate right now. Just look around you, man. Turn on the news. Go online. Okay? Go on World Star. I look at a time of war and a time of peace, and we're furthest thing from peace as we're tapping into now in regards to this situation that's going on in the East. Okay, and we understand that this is going to spill over into the Third World's War, man. And we need it, and we can't wait. So you can only imagine that, Jacob's trouble and that Karagma is right around the corner, because it's getting hot over there in Western Asia. It's going down, man. And as we're aware of, Israel's allied with America. They always been. All right, and Iran is allied with Russia, man. Right? North Korea, China. You see, but Russia's the talking point. Okay, Russia is pro Middle East. You see, and when you go into the prophecy in Ezekiel 38, Lord willing, we'll grab it. All right, Iran, all right, which are those Persians, they're aligned with Russia. All right, now let's play this clip real quick to the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And man, just bringing forth the time of prophecy, man. All right, measuring the time diligently, man. With everything that's going on prophetically right now, if you've been given the gift, okay, of prophecy, what more can one do but prophesy? You know? This is what it is, man. We're counting down the end of this place, which is pretty much going to bring forth the beginning of our era, man. The beginning of Jacob. So yeah, you know we're watching closely, man. We're end time prophecy junkies, man. Understanding that this is gonna get us home. Let's play this.
That I sent out. But I think we need, we need to understand that
Colonel Douglas Macgregor joins us now for our weighing in on all of this, to make sense of what's happening in the world as Iran has now fired back, struck targets. We knew that this was coming. It didn't take 2 months for that to happen. Like the last time, Iran waited 2 months before this attack. It was almost immediate. Colonel Douglas Macgregor, great to see you. Thank you for jumping on with us today on this emergency broadcast. How are you?
Good.
What do you make of, first of all, maybe you can sort of paint a picture on exactly what happened here. How did this happen? And then what happens next?
Well, I don't know if you saw the tweet, or X as we call it right now, that I sent out. But I think we need, we need to understand that's essentially what's happened in a nutshell. First of all, President Trump, whether he admits to it or not, has made us a co-belligerent. He's essentially admitted by his actions and some of his words that we were in on this from the very beginning. And this is really disturbing, because from this point forward, I don't think anything we say, anything this government says, is going to be taken seriously by anyone in Moscow or Beijing or Tehran or Ankara or anywhere else. And that's the worst part, because clearly he helped to lull the Iranians into a false sense of security and set them up for this disastrous attack. So that's one thing. So the other thing is that short run, everybody's running around in Israel and declaring victory. Israel's supporters, I should say, their paid agents in the United States are supporting or are, telling everybody how happy they are. But in truth, this looks an awful lot like an Iranian Pearl Harbor to me. And nobody here today remembers, I was born shortly afterwards in 1953, but the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, they sank some ships, and then they too celebrated and sailed home. It didn't work out very well for them. And I think the Israelis are in a similar position. The Japanese could have landed and seized those Hawaiian Islands, and then it would have been hell for us to get them back. It would have taken at least 2 years. Who knows what might have happened? Fortunately, they didn't do that. The difference is that Israel cannot consolidate its victory over Iran. But they're assuming that they'll have help from us, that we will jump in with both feet and rescue them. In the meantime, the Iranians are firing all of their older missiles. And by older missiles, I mean old technology. And the old technology is being shot down, which is the goal. They want the Israelis to waste all of their inventory on these old missiles before they start using the really high-end, devastating material. So I think this is just the beginning. The other part of this is that we're now going to see the rest of the world sort of link arms around Iran. Because if you're sitting in Moscow or Beijing or Ankara or anywhere else, and you see what's happening to Iran, you say, well, look, if we don't stand by these people, inevitably we'll be next. We'll just be one more dead name on the list, like Gaddafi. So I think all in all, this is a catastrophe for Israel. But in the meantime, it looks wonderful for Israel, or at least that's what their supporters and agents in the United States want everybody to think.
Right, and honestly, just backing up what he was saying regarding Israel thinking that America is going to come rescue them, you are. All right, pursuing the biblical prophecy, that's exactly what you're going to do. Let's go ahead real quick, and I'm gonna jump up in that video like 10 minutes and play like 2 minutes of another clip of that video that I want to share with you, Akiam and Aqua. Let me see here. What did I want? Jeremiah chapter 49 and verse 20, and it reads, "Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he hath taken against Edom." Okay, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. "And his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman," man, which are those Germans, all right, the wise men of the Edomites, right? Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out, man. And this is talking to Israel. Israel is the least of the flock, man. Okay? The first of the nations, man. They're going to draw out Babylon. Look it. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. Okay? Because they're going to be dragged into this third world war. You see, this third world war, again, consists of the battle of the Titans, man. Gog, Magog, and Babylon the Great. Matter of fact, let me get this as well. And then we're going to make our way back to that video. Revelations, the 20th chapter, real quick. I'm right to the point. In verse 8, and it reads, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. And this is talking to Evil E in the form of this revival Western Roman Empire. Okay? They will come back into power. And the first thing they'll do is deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, showing you that they will be given that blessing they were given. They will receive that blessing upon the revival of the Western Roman Empire. You see? Where they will be able to rule the fourth part of the earth, which consists of the globe, man. Versus just the known world, which was the old world at the time of the Romans. You see? But under this revival of the Western Roman Empire, they'll have full control of the earth. Okay, fulfilling that blessing they received in Genesis, the 27th chapter. Let's continue. Right, look. Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle. See? The number of whom is as the sand of the sea, because the bricks is going to be deep. They're going to also be tagging along with America's allies. All right, pursuant to Revelations, the 17th chapter. You see, so this is just the reality of the movie, man. So there's no avoiding it. There's no getting out of it. All right? You're going to fall upon your own sword. Pursuing the Psalms, the 37th chapter. This is the reality. Let's continue on. I'm going to fast forward to about... right here.
Everybody believes
Military expertise.
Here we go.
And a lot of platforms.
Yeah. And then we get, it's deeply disturbing. Colonel, because of your military expertise, I want to ask you now in Tel Aviv. So Glenn Greenwald moments ago posting this 2021 New York Times piece about the new IDF Supreme Command Post, which is in the heart of Tel Aviv. And they built this massive bunker system for the IDF, and they specifically built it beneath civilian buildings in Tel Aviv. They call it Fortress of Zion. And it was, of course, deliberately placed there to be, so it couldn't be attacked without seemingly hitting civilian sites. So what do you... where do you see Iran's targets? Are we going to see a lot of civilian infrastructure struck, mostly military targets, and then will Iran over 24 hours say, okay, we're done now, let's let cooler heads prevail, let's go back to the nuclear negotiating table? We see moments ago hypersonic missile attacks inside of Tel Aviv, and they can't stop it with this Iron Dome. So maybe you could just talk military, tactically and strategically here for Iran.
Well, Iran, first of all, has an almost inexhaustible supply of missiles, and they have alternative sources. They can not only build their own missiles, they can get additional components and warheads from other sources, whether those sources are North Korea, China, Russia, as I said before, potentially even Pakistan. And now the Turks are coming online and saying that they support Iran. And I'm sure that there are others. So I think there won't be a shortage of things for the Iranians to fight back with. The real question now is, what do we do? And I think President Trump is already signaling that he'd like to go back to the negotiating table. The problem is that no one believes him. He's destroyed his credibility. I don't think anybody's going to show up to negotiate with him about anything. So I think this is going to go on, and it'll get worse the longer it lasts. And eventually you reach the nuclear threshold. That's what's always worried me, because as the Israelis become more and more desperate and realize just what a terrible position they are in, that's when they threaten the use of a nuclear weapon. Now, the danger, of course, is that by that time, others will have provided nuclear weapons for use against them. In other words, unless there is some sort of miraculous come to Jesus moment in Israel, and I don't think it's going to happen there, this is going to reach a climax, and the climax is not good for Israel. It's going to be disastrous for the Middle East, disastrous for the world. But it may be unavoidable now. You know, the Israelis are operating on a degree of self-congratulation, self-importance, self-love that you can't even begin to imagine. And you just pointed out a good example of where their thinking lies. If they're going to be defeated, then I think their attitude is, we'll pull the plug on everybody and kill everything. And that's a catastrophe too.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, what can you say? Hey, this is the reality settling in for Evil E. Okay, point blank period. Look at him with his mouth open. Through. This is the reality, man. Okay? Hey, you came into power via the sword, and that's how you're going to be removed. Okay, and there's no avoiding it. There's no avoiding it, man. And, you know, speaking to Iran, all right, again, they're allied with Russia, okay, and several other major superpowers. You see, this is not going to just be some push you upside the forehead and turn my back on you and walk away type of assault. No, man. Hey, this thing's going to go down to the wire, man. You see? And how do we know that? Because prophecy tells us. Let's close out with this. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38, and verse 1, and it reads, "And the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against them." See, so ultimately, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is against Russia as well. Those are Edomites as well. Okay, we can't escape that fact. He's just using them as a weapon of his, all right, to do his will. Now, real quick, when you get this word Magog.
Strong's H 4031. Magog.
Right, land of Gog. Look it, right, the second son of Japheth, grandson of Noah, right, the progenitor of several tribes northward from Israel. Right, exactly. What region is this talking to? The mountainous region between Cappadocia and Media. Okay, where were the modern day Medes? Were in the land of the north, in the east. They're in the northeast, where Russia is at right now. Okay, this is why when you read Isaiah, the 13th chapter, when the Lord says he's going to stir up the Medes, he's talking about Russia. You got to know this. How do we know? Because modern day Babylon, okay, as far as the ancient Babylon, didn't get taken down by the Medo-Persian Empire by fire or war at all. It was just a takeover. You see? So when you read Isaiah 13 and it goes into how the Lord will stir up the Medes, they'll have no pity for the old or for the young. You know, they're gonna dash them into pieces, X, Y, and Z. That's talking about a future prophecy, is what that's talking to. That's a future prophecy, the burden of Babylon, or which is talking about this Babylon, whether you can receive that or not. Okay? Continuing on in Ezekiel 38, right? In verse 3, "And say, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army." Right. So ultimately, Russia is going to go back into that USSR spirit, which you see them in that spirit now, in the form of Putin. Okay? He got the spirit of war on him, because that's the spirit the Lord put on him, man. That's the Lord turning them back and putting the hooks in their jaws, man. You see? Look, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucks. See, even with a great company. See that? Even a great company, going back to that Revelations 20:8. They should be like the sand of the sea. They're going to be deep. Look, with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, which are talking to those missiles. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. All of them with shield and helmet, right? Persia. All right, that's Iran. Okay? The modern day Persians are the Iranians. You see, Ethiopia and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, man. Okay, look at Goma and all his bands, the house of Torgama, which is talking to Turkey, right? Of the North Quarters and all his bands and many people with thee, man. They're going to be deep. This is the reality of this thing. This is what this thing's going to spill over into. Okay? And ultimately they're going to descend upon Babylon. They're going to clash over there in the east, man. Okay? The valley of Yahweh Shaphat, the valley of Yahweh's judgment. All right, this thing, and then this thing's going to spill over with ICBM missiles leaping continent to continent. This is the reality, man. You see? So, hey, we here, man. Hey, prophecy is speaking, and we staying locked in. Hey, stay prayed up, beloved Akiamenak, while fast as well as pray. Yahweh Shai is on his way. Shalom.